Hi Patrick, how are you? It's been a very long time since we had the opportunity to meet and have a conversation. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for making it happen, and it's been way too long. We both agree on that. Been way too long. I'm glad. I'm so glad we're doing this. We just chatted a moment ago about doing this more often. So yeah, thanks for making this happen today.
Yeah, no, definitely. You're in Texas, I'm in California. So we have not only because of our physical differences, but we have different perspectives, and it's always fun to come together and have a conversation. As you said, it's been a while, so why don't you give us an introduction of tell us who you are, what do you do, what do you write about? How long you been in Substack? Substack is like blowing right now. Everybody's in Substack, but you're one of the first ones in Substack, I will say. So please share with us your journey.
Yeah, I mean, I'm as a profession, I work in cybersecurity. I came to cybersecurity through a typical path. I was in IT and technology for a bunch of years, network sysadmin, network engineer, blah blah blah. Been in cybersecurity for a while. Um, uh, but I'm also a person who's fascinated with mobile technology, and I have been for a bunch of years, to the degree that um, when I was recovering from cancer and not really able to do my day job for a while, I ran some blog sites just particularly about mobile technology. So fast forward a whole bunch of years, and my first Substack publication was a domain name that I had literally chased after for years, called Tech and Nonsense, because I figured I would write about some tech things, especially mobile tech, and I would write about some nonsense things. So that's been on Substack for a while. It's still a minnow, obviously. I think I have like right around 550 subscribers. Um, and now I have a second publication, which I hope we'll talk about a little more later on, um, which is much more direct, which is more directly in an area that is really my passion these days, which is cybersecurity, and in particular mentoring people about cybersecurity careers. So that one is called Cyber Sherpas. Um, so yeah, that's where I'm at in Substack. I live in Texas, like you said. I grew up in the US. My dad was from England. I spent a lot of years in England. Um, that's me in a nutshell. I'm a football fan. A football played with the feet, not played with shoulder pads. A lover of dogs. Yeah.
Yeah, I just saw your dog behind you. It was walking around right behind you.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, my name is Yaro. I've been writing Yaro on AI and tech trends for a couple of years now. And we met on Substack and we've been, communicating on and off for more than a year now. So it's always nice to have these interactions via video. So tell me, why don't you share what kind of tools have you been using lately? AI tools or any type of tools, and what do you recommend? Pros and cons. Share with us what you've been using lately. There's a lot of
Yeah.
it out there now. It's
Yeah.
well,
Absolutely. I will. I just before going there, I do want to say, connected to what you just said about how we sort of met on Substack. I think we mostly met on Substack because I kept really, really liking and enjoying your posts. And
thank you.
it drew, it drew me to pretty quickly subscribe to your Substack, and to make it um I subscribe sometimes free and sometimes paid. Yours is valuable to me, so I pay for it. Um, to quite a few of them, and yours is always like, when I see yours, that's a must read. It's in the must read quickly category. So just to add that to how we met.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
Um, so tools I'm using, um, I'll start with a not AI tool. I'll start with mobile tech. I've always been fascinated since way back in the day when we didn't have smartphones about the idea of a computer in our pocket. Before smartphones, these were things like palm devices, and where they still had a little miniature physical keyboard and stuff like that. So I'm always this is a shameful thing to admit in some ways, but I always have sort of three top tier premium smartphones
Wow.
in at home, and I'm, one may be my daily driver for a whole year, or it might be my daily driver for a few months, and then I swap and whatever. So the one I'm using right now, I've been using for about 3 weeks, and I've used enough phones over the years that I know when one of them is going to stick with me for a good while. So this is the OnePlus 13R. OnePlus is a China brand. They are not on the US banned list, by the way, which is important to know. And they're just great phones. They are a very, very pure version of Android, which I like. They add some really cool features, like they're the only phone that has a physical hardware button to shift between no vibration, no ring, no noise if you're in a meeting, and then switch back on when you're out of a meeting. A lot of cool features, and also the bang for your buck with these phones. This phone has 12 gig of RAM, a 6,000 milliamp battery, which will run forever across 2 days, and they are the fastest charging phones in the US. I'm pretty sure they charge at 80 watts. So,
Okay.
your phone's at 50% in the morning. You go make a cup of coffee, it's at 100%.
Great.
And it would be 100 watts, save for US voltage rates. It's 100 watts for its global phones. So really powerful, cool phones to use. And I do a lot of my note taking on phones, so that's a big deal for me.
So just to compare, I'm not very familiar with the watts, but 80 watts, what about an iPhone, for example? What will be the...
I haven't used iPhones in a number of years. I've been an Android guy since maybe I've probably used the iPhones through iPhone 4. So I don't totally keep up, but I think they're way slower. I think they're probably 25 watts, maybe
Wow.
45 watts.
That's a
Like the
big
top,
difference.
an Android comparison, because that's more my neighborhood. Samsung, is the highest selling, number one rated Android brand. Their phones top out at about 45 watts charging.
Wow. And this one is 80?
80, so it's almost double. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It's big. It's a big difference. And
very.
one of I mentioned one of my backup phones, or my number one phone off the bench, if we're doing sports analogies, is a Samsung Galaxy S25 Plus, and that's a really cool phone too. It's very lightweight, but there's the OnePlus is just a bigger beast, and a cool tool to use.
Okay. And I also know that you're a fan of the Nothing phone.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Been like reading about it and following, their updates and so on. And I'm very, very curious. I'm, ready. I'm almost ready to get one and just try it. What do you have to say about the Nothing phone?
Oh no, you're absolutely right. I used the Nothing phone too. I used that one was one where I can honestly say a solid year. I never wanted to switch away from that phone.
Really?
At the time I first started using it, I was using a Google Pixel 7 Pro, which at that time was, top tier, the best of the best of Google's models with a large screen. It crossed over with when I was using a Google Pixel 8 Pro as well. And honestly, it kicked both of their butts, really, as a phone that cost half the price. It was still, speedy and quick. It tweaks the Android OS a little more than the OnePlus phones, but in really nice ways. It's a beautiful monochrome UI, which is great. Back of the phone is transparent, so you actually see the innards, the components of the phone, which is cool. And Nothing takes advantage of that transparent space. They have this thing that's called the glyph interface. It's kind of a broken circle with these stripes within the circle. And you can use that for things like tracking the status of an Uber you're waiting for. It will, one circle lights up and another, section of the circle lights up, and shows you progress. It has a permanent one of those where if you have a critical task, like, oh, my wife called me, that one won't just light up temporarily. It will stay lit until you address that phone call or whatever. They're just very creative. They know that they're not a big player with a big market share, so they do more interesting things.
Okay, okay. I'm definitely willing to try that Nothing Fun. So maybe after the video we can talk about it. You can recommend, what model and where to get it. But let's move on to like some applications,
Yeah,
some software that you've been using that you can recommend. What have you been playing with?
yeah. So the AI tools, I've experimented a lot with, more than a half dozen of the popular chatbots. I am mostly using, honestly, the top three. So it's not, I'm not super original in that respect. I mean, I use ChatGPT with the plus plan, which is $20 a month. More probably, yeah, most often of all of them. Claude from Anthropic is 1A right there. Claude and Gemini would be the third one, and then Perplexity is the fourth one. Perplexity is particularly good for web search replacement, research. You can sub it in on an Android phone. I think maybe you can do it on an iPhone now, but definitely on an iPhone phone. An Android phone, you can sub it in as a personal assistant instead of Gemini, which is interesting. You can do the same with ChatGPT now. But I think what I try and do, and from guidance of people who I think are leading thinkers in AI, I try and use each of the tools enough to figure out what's this one best at, what's that one best at. So for me right now, I think ChatGPT is the best at many things across the board. I can go to it with almost anything I want to do. Claude, and this is far from just my opinion, Claude is probably the best of all of them in coding, programming. So for me, Claude is a tool that I'm currently using to achieve automating of some things on the job side of things as well. Like at work, I produce a weekly recap of cybersecurity threat alerts, from nation state level attackers to cybercrime groups and ransomware and so forth. And it's not something that I have to spend 100 hours on, but I put hours into it as a manual effort. So using Claude has generated for me a Python script that automates that process and spits out, based on my curated, selected set of RSS feeds to the best cyber threat intelligence sources and best on my keywords that I ask it to filter on, and it saves me. It's not there yet. It's going to save me a good chunk of time. I'm still working with it. It's producing really good results. So I'm at the sort of tweaking stage with it. I think Claude and ChatGPT are both very good for writing. Like you never want AI to write 100% of something for you, but just giving you an opinion on something you've written, or suggesting maybe an additional element you could add to something you've written. I think they're both very good at that. Gemini is just, Google's putting more and more into it. Gemini, I would say, is the fastest improving one at the moment, leveling up. And then one more, sorry, a lot of words here. This one is something I've been reading about just for the last few days, and I literally just charged up the Galaxy S25 Plus for this because it's not my main phone at the moment. There's this thing called Edge AI Gallery from Google. You've probably heard of that. It's going to let us run a big number of open source AI models local on our phone, and nothing ever leaves the phone. Everything you do with it from chat to generating images and whatever just stays on our Android device. And you have to, you can't get it through the Play Store. You have to get it from a GitHub download. You have to create a Hugging Face account because that's where you're going to get the models from. One of the leading models is Google's, it's called Gemma 3, which they have created specifically to be really powerful with a low number of resources so you can run it on a smartphone.
Mhm.
So that's interesting to me. I don't, I'm not going to obviously say that's going to be one of my prime tools, but I'm just super interested in trying that out.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely think that that's going to change soon. Like right now, you do have to go through GitHub and Hugging Face to be able to get the application and run it. But pretty soon, it's just going to be like a regular download from the Play Store. Um, and soon, it'll be on Apple devices as well. And it's just a download and plug and play, right? And prompt.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, that's how most users are adopting this technology. They're not gonna go to most people are not gonna go to GitHub and Hugging Face. They don't even know what that is. I'm talking about like the general population, right? And they just want to download the application and enter a prompt and give me an answer.
I think, yeah, I think you're 100% right. I think, and what's the thing that speaks to that as well is Google's classing it as experimental. So it's going to go from experimental
Absolutely.
to, alpha, beta, whatever, and then they're going to go, okay, it's on the Play Store, just like you said. Yeah.
I'm trying to see where is this product going to fit and how to market it correctly. Wow, that's very, very exciting. You're definitely playing with a lot of applications that are similar to the ones that I'm playing with. So yeah, for me, it's ChatGPT number one, pretty much for anything. I just prompt ChatGPT a lot on a regular basis. I do pay I do pay the $20 a month, which are totally worth it. Claude from Anthropic as well, same as you, basically for coding.
Yep.
Uh, I have some clients that I help them with their websites, some simple automations, and Claude is just, that baby is that toy that you go to, speed up your processes, or double check your code. Uh, and it's just amazing. It's truly amazing. And now the latest version also allows you for extensive research. So I did
Yep.
play with Manus AI, the Chinese app. I was able to have access to it. I played with it, and it gives you some very, very extensive research for any case study that you may have, right? So you can be like, hey, I want to create a business. This is my idea. This is what I want the business to be. Give me like an executive summary, business report, business like give me a marketing a marketing idea, everything, and he just spits out these long files for you to read and review. But now Claude is doing the same. They were able to develop these extensive research feature, and it's amazing. So I use Claude for coding and for extensive research. And then I don't use Perplexity as much. I have, but not as much as you. Lately, I've been playing with some like automation tools that allows me to connect different applications. So I use make.com, make
Yep.
a very easy, platform interface that allows you to choose, I don't know, Google Sheets or, documents, and then plug it with your email. So if you have a list of emails and you want to automate emails, it can do it for you as frequent as you want. And you can just plug and play so many different applications to trigger different things. So I've been using Make, I've been using Zapier, which is pretty much similar, but it
I,
allows you to connect like 7,000 applications. And now Zapier, um, they have a feature that allows you to prompt your connections. So you don't have to be, no, you don't have to be too technical about anything anymore. So you can go to Zapier and just prompt, hey, I want to connect, my email to this database, and then, the output has to be or has to go into this other document that will be emailed to these people, and it's just gonna do it for you, and you can just prompt it and then kind of like fix it, make sure that it runs exactly the way you want it to. But now a prompt will do that. So I've been playing with those two. Uh,
sorry So well, firstly, I wanted to point out I'm looking away. I was making a note of make because I've seen that mentioned by a couple other people that I also respect their view. So I just made a quick note that I've been thinking about trying that out, and now I need to try that out. Um, Zapier, I have played a little bit with. I don't. Maybe it is maybe user error. I'm not fully understanding how to work with it better, but I shied away from using that one too much because it feels to me a little bit more too much like the meter is running. Like every integration I allow it to do and every workflow I create, it's starting to be like I'm in the back of a very expensive taxi ride. Um, and I forgot one tool uh, that I think is well, I was going to say underrated, but I don't know if that's fair. Anyway, I use the Notion note-taking app, and Notion is has a big number of features, great for teams and collaboration and so on. I mostly use it for individual use, although I am now using it for some team efforts with a partner on Cyber Sherpas. But I think the part of Notion that maybe not as many people are familiar with, or they don't realize how excellent it is Notion AI. Notion AI, and for a while I was almost shocked by how good it is, and then I dove in a little more, and it's built on ChatGPT and Claude.
Okay.
So, of course,
Yeah.
so Notion AI is another one in terms of almost daily use. I can go to Notion AI and brainstorm about things. It's also so fast and so useful for, I have an AI database on Notion with like close to 500 entries. I have a lot of notes about AI and notes about other topics. I can go to Notion AI and tell me everything I have, about ChatGPT advanced voice mode or whatever topic, and Notion AI is going to come back really quickly and tell me I have 6 things about it and link to them. And anyway, so Notion AI is another good one, even though obviously it's not a standalone AI tool.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah, I do use Notion as well. I do have a lot of files there, a lot of information, and I love it because yeah, I have it on my mobile device and my
Yep.
computer, so it's seamless interaction between devices, which is amazing. All right, and then I don't know, something that really blew my mind. I put it out on my newsletter yesterday. Is this company out of Australia that's called Cortical Labs, which they developed this crazy sci-fi or this technology that is like like a sci-fi movie where they are taking live human neurons and connecting them with silicon chips and creating like an LLM like models with real brains. So I remember vividly listening to a conversation with uh, John LeCun. He's the head of AI for Meta, one of
Yeah.
the top scientists, AI brains. He's been working in this industry for more than 20 years.
Yeah. One of those kind of
One
godfathers.
of the godfathers, yeah. He was saying not too long ago how we're not gonna have this AGI, which is like the ultimate, artificial general intelligence anytime soon. What we're going to have is huge data centers with, unlimited amounts of data and these interfaces like ChatGPT, Claude, and all these, applications that we just talk about, able to retrieve this data and organize it in a way that will answer all your questions, right? And questions obviously can be through a text prompt or audio, which is kind of like the next frontier. Like we will be talking about with our AI assistants, all the time. Now we have like the glasses. We know Open AI teamed up with Johnny IV to develop a new device. Most likely, it's going to be a device that you will have a conversation with. Then it's just going to spit out data. I mean, I talk to ChatGPT all the time when I'm driving, right? He's like, hey, give me this, give me that, do this for me,
Yeah.
right? Like he's like an assistant that I'm on the call on the phone with, and it's working for me in the back end. But what he was saying is like, we're not, it's going to take a while for, artificial intelligence and LLMs to really be able to think and find creative solutions to our problems and future problems. And I completely agree with that. This is just a large amount of databases and stored in data centers, correct? That will be able to spit out pretty much any answer to any question you have. But it's not gonna be able to think creatively. So with this new company, not so new the company, but this new technology that is pairing human neurons, right? Like human brains with current LLMs, um, you may have that. I mean, I was just reading about it and thinking, it was like, oh my God, this is insane. It's like now you have a human brain,
Yeah.
but it does, it comes from a human person and it can think creatively. It can think the way we're, like thinking right now, uh, for this conversation and pair that with an unlimited memory, right? Because it's plugged to a data center with all this data stored. And all of a sudden, you may be able to have something that thinks about solutions in a human framework. I don't know if I'm
That
being clear.
that
It's
that's
kind of
that's
scary. And
that's a, to me, that's a super interesting and also a little scary
yeah,
sort of subject. Like, I'm willing to experiment with a lot of things. That's one I have no interest in experimenting with. But I would say it's also interesting because, there's so much debate out there that I'm sure you and I both see about, number one, what is it? How do we exactly define AGI? And number two, when's it going to come along? Is it get some people are out there saying it's going to be by 2030. Others are saying no way, it's much longer off than that, and so on. So one of the parts that I think is really interesting, tagged onto what you were just talking about, is that one of the, I think, better definitions I've seen about what is artificial general intelligence, AGI, really mean. It means not all this stuff about AI can do this thing faster or can ingest massive volumes of data that would take us multiple lifetimes to do or whatever. The thing that's missing is real world human experience with the physical world. So that what you're describing, where the human brain is connected to a large language model, that's bringing the real world physical experience into the mix,
yeah,
right? So
yeah. And
from
probably,
my from
yeah.
my humble, small level of understanding, that feels like a thing that's closer to AGI.
Yeah, absolutely. This is definitely going to get us closer there. But now we have a lot of questions because now these models are paired, connected with real human brains. They'll be able to think for themselves, right? Because this is a real human brain put together and make decisions. And now we're really getting closer to this sci-fi world where, the robots and the artificial intelligence just takes over because they can, right? And they start coming up with better ideas because they have an unlimited, database of information to draw from. Right now, if we switch to another topic, it might be, we have to, okay, let me think about sports, for example. Like, okay, now let's start talking about sports. It takes a couple of seconds for us to adjust mentally, but these models is just like quick, right?
Yeah.
They can,
Well, and
they know it
there's,
all. They know everything. I don't know how to, I'm not a great cook, for example, right? So I have to like chat GPT, a few recipes to be able to come up with some food. But these models, they know it all, so they can do everything. It's just crazy. I mean, it goes back to also the question, how we gonna secure ourselves, and that's where your expertise goes in. So tell us about Cyber Sherpas. I think everybody should join that conversation you're going to have. So please share because this
okay.
is scary.
So so I'll get to my bit of shameless self-promotion.
No, no, it's not shameless. We need it. We need the info.
Okay. But I do think, to me, and I know for you as well, there's a lot of really fascinating. I mean, there's some fascinating crossover of AI in so many ways, including the one you just spoke about, linking, directly connecting to our brains and stuff. But the same is true for cybersecurity, right? generative AI now and for a while, has massively leveled up the capabilities of attackers, from small, single person trying to attack companies with ransomware, to nation state level threats and big cyber criminal groups in a number of ways, right? The one of the most basic ones is if you're trying to do any form of attack, whether it's brute forcing a password for a user or a number of users, or wanting to generate a huge amount of phishing emails to trick people into clicking bad things and compromising themselves or compromising their companies, as human beings, we can only work for so many hours before we need a rest or a break, or our capabilities start to diminish and we take days off and so on. Obviously, large language models work 24/7. They don't need a coffee break. They don't go on vacation. You don't have to give them sick days. So on a really basic level, that's improved. They're also, we lots of us used to kid around about how dumb some of the phishing efforts were, from Nigerian princes promising you a fortune to, really easy to spot bad grammar, and some common things. AI is leveling
Right.
that piece up too.
That's in the past. Have you seen that video well, have you seen any of the VO videos?
Oh yeah, yeah, deep fakes is another way that.
I'm doing these Google application videos, VO3. Uh,
Yes.
it looks so realistic. I actually have one on my page and on the notes application from Substack, where it's like basically, there's this lady that allegedly looks like she's being kidnapped. And it's like, hey, I'm not real, dad. You don't need to send any money. I'm AI. And then it cuts into another scene of, a reporter right in front of like, this war scene. He's like, hey, how are you? The world is burning. I'm in front of this war, but don't worry about it. This is not real. This is just AI. And then it keeps going and cutting into different, like very dangerous, warlike scenes that can be used by scammers, right, to steal money, and they're very realistic. I mean,
Deep
yeah,
deep
yeah, go
deep
ahead.
fake stuff is a huge
Very.
threat. Deep fake videos, and even deep fake audio. There's deep fake audios that we've seen being used to, for example, deep fake audio of a chief executive officer calling a chief financial officer and telling him that he urgently needs to transfer company funds to X place. And the voice is identical to the CEO.
Yeah,
I can't remember which nation it was in,
yeah,
but
I
there's
did.
an actual case where that worked, and something like $350,000 were transferred by the chief financial officer based on a deep fake audio call. So there's deep fake audio, there's deep fake video, and again, these are things that are being used against attacks on small, medium, large organizations, but also against us as individuals. There's going to be deep fakes that are going to call you and sound like your wife or your child or whatever. So we're all under the gun to, try and be aware of what's what. We were
Yeah,
chatting about this a little before we, hit
yeah.
record.
Uh,
Um,
I think what's interesting. Sorry, I just have something that I was thinking about. It's gonna be very important to kind of like relax once you get a phone call or a video that coming from your family member or friend telling you that they're in danger and they need all this money, blah blah blah. You have to remain calm and maybe hang up the phone or take a pause and call them. Hey,
That's
did you just
you,
call me?
no,
Like,
no, you're
I'm at the mall chilling.
that's 1,000% correct. And the thing is, that's been true for a long while. AI has not changed that. You
Right.
know, from phishing emails 10 years ago, that's been the thing, is take a minute.
Yeah.
You know, if you get an email, if I get an email from my dad, or claiming to be from my dad, and it's on it at a time of day that my dad never emails me, or even if there's no real immediate telltale signs, just take that minute. If there's even just something small that seems a little off,
Yeah.
just what you just said, take a minute. It's not rocket science. Just take a minute, think about whether your dad emails you on a Thursday night at 2 a.m., or whatever, or in a more normal time. Take a minute is a big, powerful thing in all these places. What I was going to say is that chatting beforehand, I think it's important to also emphasize that this is not all doom and gloom, this area. Generative AI is also helping us as cybersecurity defenders to level up our capabilities, to automate things that are involved in our defenses, to automate and summarizing and analyzing threat data or vulnerabilities. There are AI tools out there, more than one of them. Google is maybe leading the charge in this area that are now capable of identifying a thing, and we may need to explain this a little to cater for how, broad audience or whatever audience we have here, that are able to identify zero-day vulnerabilities faster than we ever have been able to do through other means. Zero-day means it's a vulnerability that is brand new to the world. It's only just been discovered by a researcher, or more often by a bad person, a bad actor. So there's no, at a basic level, there's no antivirus solutions to address that vulnerability because it's a 0-day. There's no firewall that's going to catch it. And so
it's something completely new.
Yeah.
That still a solution has not been created for, because nobody was.
So now there are multiple AI tools. Google is one of them. I think ChatGPT is in the mix.
What is the other one? The first one you mentioned?
Sorry?
What is the first tool that you mentioned?
Google. I don't even think it's part of Gemini. It's part of Google's overall cyber defense capabilities. They bought a couple years ago, nobody really needs to know this, but they bought a company called Mandiant, who are a blue chip cybersecurity company. And Google already had pretty strong cybersecurity talent within their organization, but the purchase of Mandiant gave them a whole bunch of talented cybersecurity people. So Google is one of those that are now have tools that are getting good at identifying 0 days before they even exist. They're identifying potential 0 days within technology. And I believe ChatGPT is developing some similar capabilities. And then there's at least one other player there. And sadly, I don't remember their name. Otherwise, I would love to give them credit. But there's at least one other player out there with tools that are having this capability. So, and there's more to say on that, but I don't want to keep blabbering. But the main point is, it's not all doom and gloom. This is not all, oh my God, the bad guys have all this AI, we're screwed. That's not where we're at.
At the end of the day, it's not the tools you have, it's how you use them. But once you remember the other applications, feel free to put it in the comments. Hopefully we have a lot of comments going once we post this video. So yeah, just to wrap it up, Sherpas, come on.
Yeah, okay. So thank you so much for letting me do the shameless or not shameless, whichever way we want to frame it, promotion. So apart from my day job in cybersecurity, I had a side gig for several years where I worked on a MIT cybersecurity course for adult students from all over the world who are trying to get into a career in cybersecurity. So these are people who are coming from being accountants or working in finance. Some of them are working in more physical careers, mechanic or whatever, coming from all sorts of different careers, but wanted to get into cybersecurity. And what I discovered in the course of doing that for five course runs there was that it was enormously rewarding for me. It's the most rewarding work I've ever done in my life. Like feeling like I think most of us as human beings, if you have a chance to, or a moment where you feel you can help another human, you can legitimately help another human being, whether it's helping somebody cross the road or helping somebody train themselves physically, feeling you can help somebody is an awesome feeling. And I got, you know, I've been fortunate in that I love doing that. It's super rewarding. And I've been told by past students that I'm good at it. You know, they've got a lot of benefit out of it. And I've kept in touch with a lot of former students and tried to help them when they, you know, hit me on LinkedIn or elsewhere and say, hey, I'm prepping for my first cyber interview or whatever sort of thing. So it's a real, I know people throw this word around too much, but it's a real passion area for me. I love the idea of trying to help people who want to get into a career in cybersecurity, or they're mid-career or senior career, and they want to just know how to advance, get the next promotion, whatever, being able to help them. So Cyber Sherpas is a Substack publication. We have a website attached to it. I'm working with a partner on this. We have a website. We're going to do YouTube shorts. We're going to do webinars. We're going to publish things on Substack. One bit of good news is for the foreseeable future, we have no intention to charge anybody any money for anything. Attend a webinar. We're going to do mostly Ask Me Anything AMA webinars. Just bring your questions. If it's how do I write a good resume to land a first cybersecurity job? How do I get hands-on experience without getting my first job? How do I build a home lab? Those kind of things. Bring your questions. Bring things that we're not thinking of. Bring them. We'll do our best to answer them. None of that is going to cost any money.
Excellent. We're gonna put the link on the notes and the comments, and we're definitely gonna share these around. I'll share with my audience as well, and I'll be following that newsletter.
Thank you so much. And the one I linked you to over there is, you know, if any of y'all are watching this and have any interest, you know, the save the date thing is June 14, which is a Saturday, not too far away, 2 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to do a coffee with Cyber Sherpas. Let's talk about cyber career paths. So
that's Saturday 14.
Saturday, June 14, 2 p.m. Eastern. Bring your questions, bring your thoughts.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for letting me share.
Yeah. All right. Hopefully we get to do this again. If anybody's interested in joining us for our next conversation, please let us know. We're more than open to expand this room and have more people join us and have a bigger, better conversation and hearing from your experience with all these new technologies. Thank you.
Yeah, next time we'll do that thing. We'll connect all our brains, plastic tubes or something.
Hopefully not. Thank you, Patrick. You have a beautiful day, man.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.